We hope that you enjoy these short videos we have posted for each day of Holy Week. We are providing an inside track to 6 persons who were contemporaries of Jesus during his lifetime, and especially in his final week. Get to know them each a bit better and experience the story from a different vantage point. Before we begin, please pause this video and assemble something to use for communion, a piece of bread or a cracker and some juice or another liquid to drink. If you have some kind of vessel at home that resembles a chalice, use that to contain the juice. Then restart the video. In this installment, we introduce you to another of Jesus's disciples, Judas. Judas is a complicated and controversial figure in Christianity. On the one hand, his betrayal of Jesus set in motion the events that led to his crucifixion. On the other hand, his betrayal also led to Jesus's resurrection. There could not have been a resurrection without a crucifixion. Perhaps Judas actually followed Jesus's instructions. Perhaps Judas alone correctly understood Jesus's teachings. We cannot be sure. Traditionally, we have portrayed Judas as a conflicted and tortured individual by his unique place in history. Here is one perspective on his story. We read in John's Gospel, the 13th chapter, verses 21 through 30. After saying this, Jesus was troubled in spirit and declared, "Very truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he was speaking. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him. Simon Peter therefore motioned to him to ask Jesus of whom he was speaking. So while reclining next to Jesus, he asked him, "Teacher, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." So when he had dipped the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. After he received the piece of bread, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to him, "Do quickly what you are going to do." Now, no one at the table knew why he said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the common purse, Jesus was telling him, "Buy what we need for the festival," or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the piece of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. Let us hear Judas's story. I was so angry with him. Why was he so passive? We had so many followers by this time, and so many more were in Jerusalem right now. Why did he insist on this blessed are the meek stuff? I think all along I had hoped that this was the revolution, that we could finally stand up to the Roman occupiers, and he had such power and charisma. Couldn't he have done anything, this Son of God? I suppose my bitterness finally took over. I had kept it all inside for some time, and it had started to boil and rage until I just snapped. If I couldn't get my revolution, maybe I could just get out. I was tired of holding the purse for this motley group of people who gave it away as soon as it came in. And then I discovered I could get out with some money from those dirty Romans. It all happened so fast. They approached me. They had seen me, watched me, perhaps read my indecision, my anger, my separation at times from the group. And it just happened. And then there I was at the table, his table, knowing what I had set into motion. All of a sudden, I was flooded with panic as we all sat there. The air felt heavy with fear and unknowing. At the table again. It reminded me of all the meals in our years together. Sometimes just us, this small band of disciples, but often with someone Jesus had invited to dinner, someone we couldn't believe yet again he was hanging out with. Sometimes it was hard to understand. People who took advantage of others, people who had no interest in supporting him, people who questioned him, people who were beneath him. Really, he invited anyone to the table, the bottom feeders. And then I realized, as he stretched out the cup of wine to me and dipped the bread in it, that he saw right through me, knew my thoughts. He was doing it once again, inviting a scoundrel to dinner. Only this time, I was the scoundrel. He was offering to share the cup and break the bread with me. He would never have hurt anyone. He loved us all, even the lowest of the low. Jesus did indeed invite all kinds of people to share the table with him, and he still does today. The communion table doesn't belong to any of us. It is Christ's table, and we are all his guests. It does not matter who you are, what your background is, where you came from, where you are on your spiritual path. Jesus welcomes you to his table. On the night that Jesus was betrayed, he took bread and he blessed it and he broke it and he gave it to them and said, "Take and eat. This is my body broken for you." In a similar way, after supper, Jesus took the cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to his disciples and said, "This is the cup of the new covenant, poured out in my blood for forgiveness of sins. Drink of it, all of you, in remembrance of me." Take the elements of communion you have gathered and share them now. Dip the bread or cracker into the juice and partake. As you do so, remember, Jesus welcomes all to his table, including you.
Today's musical reflection is based on the hymn, "Come to the Table of Grace."